If everyone can take the seats, thank you. Thank you. That's you. Reserve the right to hand out money. Since you got paper, I'll do it. Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. Without objection today, we have some guests, so I think what I would like to do without objection from the committee is we'll start with sewer, but then we'll go to solid waste, if that's all right. We have a number of people here for solid waste, and that way, if they need to be elsewhere, they can feel free to leave, if that's all right. And first, let's start by the approval of our previous minutes. Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? From Mr. Bruno, second from Ms. Bramer. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And now, Kevin, what do we have under sewer?
So the first thing we have under sewer, the only thing, and sewer is really rare that we ever have to bring this, but this is to amend an intermunicipal agreement. We currently have an agreement right now. There's an agreement with, and I'm going to let Matt Fuller here explain in a minute, with Kingsbury, Queensbury, Washington County, and Warren County for a sewer district that is located off of Kingsbury Avenue. This amendment to the intermunicipal agreement would amend that Kingsbury has dissolved its sewer district and that Washington County has extended its sewer district and takes on all the obligations of that district. But I have Matt Fuller here from Meyer, Fuller and Stockwell. And if the chairman will allow, I'll let him kind of give an overview.
Matt, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see everybody.
What do we have in front of us here?
Yeah, Kevin, really summarized it. First, I want to introduce Kevin Gorman. He is, I can't say new anymore. He's been on the job a few months, but he is the executive director of the Washington County Sewer Districts, 1 and 2. Today, we're dealing with one up by the airport. And as Kevin laid out years ago, probably 20 years ago, plus Queensbury, Kingsbury, Glens Falls, Warren County, Washington County all got together. And the IDA wanted to extend the industrial park over there north of Casey Road. So where Roselle, it was the RWS Chips, but the chip company there, they wanted to extend the industrial park north. And with the grant funding and things like that that they got, they had to form a town sewer district. There were some issues why they couldn't then extend the county sewer district. It had to be a town district. Like many towns, Kingsbury isn't really in the sewer business. So they, for 20 years, ended up defaulting to the Washington County Sewer District to handle repairs, things like maintenance, things like that. So fast forward to where we are now. We're about to undertake a project out there that I'll just briefly explain in a second. And what we've done is, instead of Washington County billing Kingsbury, Kingsbury billing its users, Washington County handling all the O&M for that district, we decided it's time to get Kingsbury out of the sewer business up there. And normally what we would do is go through a consolidation process, but believe it or not, under the general municipal law, you can't consolidate a county sewer district and a town sewer district. It's actually prohibited in the statute. So we went through the process of dissolving Town of Kingsbury Sewer District 1 and extending Washington County Sewer District number 1 to encompass all of the Kingsbury district. With those old IMAs from 20 years ago, there are obligations that Kingsbury had, right, to basically pay its bills and maintain its system that are, Kingsbury requires and Glens Falls requires, because ultimately we discharge to Glens Falls there. And the Washington County Sewer District is going to assume all of those obligations. The big reason we're doing it is we're doing a slit line project. That infrastructure in the old sewer district is really old. And we have a lot of I&I, and anybody that has sewer systems, I&I is inflow and infiltration. We have a lot of ground and stormwater getting into that system up there. And it ultimately hits the Queensbury pump station at the airport. And it's driving the electricity costs, O&M costs through the roof. Those users are paying that cost up there right now. Warren County has the people on the users on the Warren County side of Queensbury Ave that discharge to the Washington County system that then goes back to the Warren County side and the Queensbury system and on to Glens Falls. So ultimately, you guys have taxpayers too that are paying those increased electricity costs and wear on pumps and things like that. So we're gonna go through about $1.5 million slip lining project to eliminate as much of that I&I as we can. And we think that the costs will be driven down on O&M. It may not be dollar for dollar to offset the debt, but it's gonna be pretty significant. And, you know, obviously Glens Falls and Queensbury are very interested in us eliminating the I&I because it's using up capacity in the Glens Falls plant.
Sure.
So that's really, this is, since Warren County was a party to this, we need Warren County Board of Supervisors to approve it, have it signed. Queensbury has already approved it. I went worked with Bob Hafner and Supervisor Stroud. They've approved. Washington County's approved. Kingsbury's approved. IDA's approved. Warren County's it.
So Matt has already sent an IMA. I don't have it in the package, but I think he'll work with our county attorney's office to make sure. And I think he's already worked with Robert a little bit on that. I asked Matt if we, the county, could get out of this sewer district that we have, but he told me he could not. There's the number of users are on it. That's what requires us to have this district. But we do not do anything within this district except pay for the O&M and such that either Kingsbury or Queensbury and or Washington County does. So, but with that being said, I think Robert's started to work with Matt already on this. And they'll get the agreement done, and we'll be all set.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Ultimately, we back to as part of going, this process has actually been about 6 years, but as part of the process, we discovered that the old IMA between Warren County and Washington County for sewer service, none of us can find it. So the actual IMA that we agreed to, the billing and all that, we're doing it, and we've been doing it for 50, 30, 40 years, 50 years probably now. So systems are working, but Warren County side, Washington County side, can't find that contract. I'm gonna work with Robert. We'll get an IMA. It's not gonna be very complicated, but we'll have that fixed. And the side shoot of it is there will be some local law work too. Again, I'll work with Robert. Legally now, and Kevin knows this, he deals with them every year. Warren County is what's called a POSS, a publicly owned sewer system. That means you don't own a plant, but you own a sewer system that discharges to a plant. And regulatory wise, from EPA down to DEC, through the speedies permits, which is what Glens Falls ultimately has, there are now requirements statutory of certain enforcement provisions that we have to have in local laws. And that's actually Glens Falls is required to do it. They pass it to Queensbury. Queensbury passes it to Washington County. Washington County passes it back to Warren County. So we will work up a package of local law amendments for the county to have so that Glens Falls can ultimately show that everybody upstream of them is properly enforcing the Clean Water Act. So that's above and beyond what we're doing today, but we'll be back to you. Kind of, this is the building block to get the rest of that stuff done.
Right. I might add too that aside from the financial, eliminating the I&I from the system, I receive all the alerts of during major storm events. And what happens with these plants is when they get exceeded, as you well know, that water treated and untreated or partially treated gets discharged.
For the Hudson River, yeah.
That's correct. So by, and what we found with our slip lining project, we're actually looking to do more in terms of not only slip lining the line, but also the manholes, is that it significantly reduces the I&I. Leaves the groundwater in the ground where it belongs, and it's not delivered to the plant. So there's the financial for sure, but there's also significant environmental, positive environmental implications to doing this work.
Yeah, all the progress we've done in Sewer District 2 down in Kingsbury, Fort Edward, and Glens Falls has the same way. They can show you documented proof of when they do those projects, the decrease in flow, which then opens up capacity in the plant. So if you're treating clean water, and it's a waste of money. But that's Kevin.
Anything else?
Oh, I have
And what do you need from the committee today?
to do the approval to enter into an IMA.
Okay, well, to the committee, what's your pleasure? Do we have a motion, Mr. Bruno? Mr. Bruno, to allow for the transfer of the responsibilities. We have second by Mr. Ito. Does that, I see your hand from Mr. Ito, Supervisor Ito. Any further discussion? What do we have?
Thank you. Just a quick question. Is this in any way related to the redevelopment of the GBB watering plant?
No.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
This is, there's an issue with inflow.
Yeah, no, Washington County, that's a good question. Washington County Sewer District number 1, up by the airport, is not connected to Sewer District 2.
Thank you, Supervisor Wild. Supervisor Ito?
If we can't find the IMA, is this an amendment or is this a new IMA?
Oh, no, so this IMA amendment here, we have all those agreements, and it's got 1974, 75, there was an agreement. None of us can track that down. Well, that's a different issue, but we're not. Nobody's worried about that. We'll get one in place.
Well, we've had a motion and a second to bring it to the floor. Any further discussion from the committee? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Is that it?
Mr. Chairman, does it go to a full board next, or is it?
In November, full board. I think, I think if there are questions, if you could have a representative there, yourself or someone, I think that would be a very good thing, Matt.
Yep, I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, without objection, then what I'd like to do now is move right into the solid waste agenda. And under privilege of the floor, we have some guests with us. Kevin, would you like to?
Sure. So, as you all know, we've been looking at a lot of things, from composting to creating a recycling facility. Basically just to lower the solid waste within Warren County. We had goals that we had in our local solid waste management plan. Not everyone's liking. There's still goals to move forward to reduce solid waste. But I was approached by Zero Waste, as I think Supervisor Conover was as well, that there's a company who's online with us called Replenish. And they, I believe, and I think they've handed out the form to you. They kind of have a blueprint for communities to kind of collect recyclables as well as find revenue for those recyclables. So without further ado, I'm not sure if anyone from Zero Waste would like to speak, or you want to turn it right over to Replenish.
Diane's going to.
Diane,
Okay.
good to see you, Diane. Welcome.
Diane Collins, I've spoken several times, a member of Zero Waste Warren County. And their committee members, Supervisor Conover, Mr. Hill, thank you again for having our citizen advocacy group, Zero Waste Warren County, being here with you today. We've worked together on recognizing that cost and waste are very big concerns. New York State mandates that municipalities collect recyclables. The municipal transfer stations are doing the collecting, and your towns are paying high costs for trucking waste and recyclables to be buried in landfills or to private sorting facilities. We actually have no control as to where the recyclables really wind up. Trucking costs will only get higher, and the waste of items that could be recycled will continue. Now we pay double. The cost of sending recyclables away and the lost profit for not marketing our own. We are in agreement that taking control is needed. Clearly, we need to collect and market our own recyclables. Recycled commodity companies would pick up baled recyclables directly from us. Cost savings would be significant, along with assurance that recyclables are getting to the right places. Waste would diminish, money would be saved and then made. Today, we have invited the company called Replenish to share with you by Zoom their proven approach to collection strategies and successful marketing. No change is easy, but our time is now. As we had in the past, a work group could be formed and move forward with taking control of our solid waste system. Replenish may have some answers for us. Tracy Frisch, the founder of Zero Waste Warren County, will respond to your comments and questions following the Zoom presentation. So now let's hear from Ryan Hart from Replenish.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the County Board of Supervisors and Public Works Chairman Conover for inviting me here to speak today. I have a short presentation that I'd like to walk through, and then I'll leave some time for questions at the end. With me one moment. Perfect. Can you all see my presentation?
Yeah.
Excellent. What we see is that brands need your material, and this is one of the biggest challenges in creating circularity today. What we see locally is typically all of the kind of negative and the challenges of material recovery. Local paper mills are closing. We hear that every day a county either stops collecting plastic or has challenges addressing their material recovery. But what we see is really this kind of mismatch of supply and demand. Brands that we work with Pepsi, we work with Coca-Cola, we work with Walmart, need materials that are generated in your county, but struggle to get that back. And the system isn't designed perfectly. Brands are really good at getting these materials into our hands. You can purchase a Pepsi or a Coca-Cola pretty much in any retail store across the country. But when it comes to getting those materials back, it's incumbent upon the county to solve that problem. And really no resources are provided to help with collection, to help with marketing that material. And you're really left with kind of a black box of where did my material go? How much did the county collect? And that's really what Replenish is here to solve, is to really kind of bring light to that problem and create circularity in kind of local communities. And the opportunity that we look at is we start by looking at the population of a county. So taking Warren County, of your population of 65,000 people, the value of the material that's currently generated is about $1.6 million of material annually. So this equates to about 1.3 million pounds of PET, which is the plastic used in water bottles or soda bottles. Your county generates over 500,000 pounds of aluminum cans, 12 million pounds of cardboard, or over 850,000 pounds of HDPE, or plastic number 2, which is kind of the plastic used in milk jugs or shampoo bottles or kind of household cleaning products. And really kind of this is the opportunity. And to Diane's point, if we don't know where these materials are going, unfortunately, there's no trust in the system for the community to participate and bring these materials to get recycled. So, we work with our technology to make an easily adapted playbook for cities and towns and counties to recover this material and kind of bring visibility to where these materials are being recycled. And unfortunately, kind of the challenge is borne unevenly by our rural counties. So for example, most larger population centers have or can afford larger material recovery facilities, that cost anywhere from 50 to hundreds of millions of dollars to establish to collect these materials. So we need to think of a different way that's lower cost, that kind of aligns incentives to collect these materials. So we look to optimize the current infrastructure. The county currently has kind of 12 transfer stations that are open to the public. And this really is kind of the biggest challenge, is providing kind of access And this is a problem that the county's already solved today. So, rather than bring kind of a new solution or a drastic change, what we look to provide is just a couple of few simple upgrades that connect your material direct to buyers and reduce costs significantly. So currently, recycling systems are designed on the back of the waste industry. They use the same infrastructure, it goes to the same processing facilities, and money is spent needlessly hauling material from your transfer stations to private processors. So you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to truck this material. Once the material is there, you're then paying processing fees that kind of average around $200 a ton across the country. And this really isn't the best way to process your material. As a country, it's a system that we've adopted because it's the most expedient way to use existing infrastructure. But what we need to do is just rethink a little bit with a couple of simple upgrades that would allow the county to realize significant cost savings and also build greater trust in the system. And our goal is to turn your existing infrastructure from a cost center without transparency of destination into one that generates revenue for your county and really provide kind of that circularity, which is a solution that's kind of being demanded by your citizens. Now, when we talk about circularity, we really view this as material collection with transparency of destination. If you think about the circular economy, we can all track really easily where material is created, sold, and bought by the consumer. But it's that part of the journey where there isn't the information currently to close the loop. And our technology provides that tracking, so we can continue to track, for example, material that was collected at one of your transfer stations, where it was baled, bought by a brand or mill, and then made into a new product. So we recommend that you install one baler at one of your transfer stations to immediately save on hauling fees and stop paying to ship air. It's kind of what's the industry term, or moving material that hasn't been compacted. So we work with counties to provide low-cost financing for equipment where payments are taken out of the material value that's collected, kind of reducing the cost needed to pay for equipment out of your county budgets. Replenish has a built-in marketplace to really solve the problem of where are we selling this material. And this we find is kind of one of the biggest challenges that counties face is having access to these outlets. And we work with our brand partners to purchase this material directly and solve one of the other large inefficiencies in our national system today, where most material is brokered twice when it's bought from a city before it gets to a processing mill. So, around 30% of that value is eaten up in that brokering system rather than staying in the hands of local communities who could use those funds for other public works projects. The second way that we look to optimize costs is to collect material source separated. And what we mean by source separated is Replenish provide bins to collect, for example, your plastic number one, or your soda, your water bottles in one bin, your aluminum cans in another, your cardboard, your plastic number twos. And what this does is it kind of goes around the existing infrastructure, and you don't have to pay to then sort or process this materials, and we can keep more value in the system. Additionally, this source separation allows for the tracking of your material. So one of the challenges today is when material is sent to a material recovery facility, you're basically trying to de-scramble the egg. Everything gets mixed together. There's lots of contamination, and really, on average, only about 45 to 55% of material that makes it to a material recovery facility actually gets recycled. And by collecting material source separated, we're able to keep contamination rates into single digits and recycle kind of a greater percentage of material that's currently being collected. And lastly, what this provides is it helps you build trust. So by knowing where your materials are going, by knowing how much they're getting bought and sold for, the community can trust that, you know, if they're going to take the effort to bring their materials and drop it off at a transfer station, that it's actually being recycled. We use our technology to showcase this in real time. Any community member can go we create a website for each community that we work with to see how much is currently being recycled and showcase its destination as well. You know, we really started working with local communities a couple of years ago that started with a question of, you know, where are materials taken once they're purchased? So and we've been working with the city of Bartlesville in Oklahoma for 3 years now. They had a city collection site that was collecting materials mixed and then hauling it over 70 miles to Tulsa to get processed at a private material recovery facility, which was costing the city over $150,000 a year. Kind of over the work that we've done with the city, we're now collecting just over 315,000 pounds of material annually, which is over kind of 40,000 pounds of plastic number one, and about you know, almost 29,000 pounds of aluminum cans. And we've been able to help the city, you know, alleviate a large portion of the cost to operate the facility and help them recover their material in a better way. And, you know, we come to you today because we want to help. You know, we'd like to learn a little bit more about kind of some of your current processes, your volumes, and, you know, potentially work to identify a transfer station that we can then build a formal statement of work and proposal that kind of includes a kind of project timeline, scope of work, a profit and loss statement, a kind of detailed material analysis. But for us, it really starts with identifying that location, which we then work to kind of right size the right equipment. You know, we provide not only the kind of baler to compact the material, but also kind of all of the kind of needs for collection. So an iPad, a floor scale, we provide the bins to collect the equipment to make the implementation of the project as easy as possible. You know, we got started really with collecting the most common material types that are generated in the household waste stream. So, you know, your plastic number one bottles, your plastic number two, your aluminum cans. But, you know, we're constantly looking to expand the materials that we're collecting. And a lot of that comes from feedback of the communities that we work with. So, for example, batteries is a huge ask and kind of growing need that we see in our communities, and one that we're working on and kind of looking to implement collection in 2024. And kind of the other kind of really large opportunity is textiles, which you know, can be anywhere of 20% of the household waste stream. So, you know, we're we've really designed these systems to be material agnostic, that it can be points of collection to help take kind of the current process that is kind of burdened by kind of cost and a lack of transparency, and kind of provide an easier and more transparent solution to material recovery. So with that, my kind of short presentation is done. We have some small renderings of kind of what a collection site could look like. After our first step, once we've chosen a site, we do a site visit, and we'll generate kind of renderings kind of based upon that for the formal proposal. But here's just a kind of a bird's eye view of what one of these facilities could look like, where we separate out where the public can drop off material, which is separated from where material is baled in the back, and aggregated before it's picked up and shipped to local processors. So with that, I'd like to finish my short talk and kind of open it up for questions from the board and from those present.
Yeah, Kevin, would you like to wade in here?
Yeah, Brian, thank you for that presentation. I guess my first question, are you the only company in the United States that does this?
We're the only company that's working directly with brands to enable them to purchase material directly. So we can provide full line of sight and transparency, whereas there might be other companies who could broker your material, but you wouldn't have that transparency of destination.
And the reason I ask the question is because typically with something like this, we don't just give it to a company. We'd have to go through a proposal process.
Correct.
Not an RFP, so that would be, and that's why I was just wondering if you were the only one, doing this work, or will others submit for this proposal as well?
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that I'd like to understand today, is kind of if you could help me out. Well, what's typically needed for that process? Is it does it start with us submitting a scope of work and a proposal, and then the county opens that up to an RFP, or how do you envision that process going?
Yeah. So typically what we would do is we would provide the scope of work.
Okay.
Based on the information you have and other information, we would provide that scope of work and put it in an RFP.
Okay.
Be out for anyone to submit a proposal on, and then we would receive those proposals. Most likely we do it based on a best value method. If there was more than one company, we would say that up front in the RFP. And then we would have probably a team of 3 or 4 reviewing the proposals. And we would pick what we believe would be the best proposal for the county. Then we would come back to this committee and award that to whoever was the successful, whoever had the most successful proposal.
Understood. And typically, what's the timeline for an RFP?
Typically, we would do 3 weeks to 3 to 6 weeks for someone to submit on that proposal.
Okay.
It depends on the complexity, and this to me seems like it would be maybe a month RFP, and then we do that review. We would bring it to committee, which is what we're in today as a committee, and then bring it to the committee to who to award it to, and then the following month it would be approved at a board meeting.
Understood.
So I'd say a 3-month process once the proposal is out.
Understood. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Any questions from any of the committee members? At the last committee meeting, we authorized Mr. Hajos to begin the process of putting together a work program and a business plan, if you will, an operating plan, so that the participating municipalities have an idea of what it's going to cost them going forward. So I think that your presentation today, I find it very interesting and timely. I see Mr. Hitchos nodding his head yes as well. The way our I think you'll understand, we have various transfer stations out in our towns and our municipalities, and but the counties is central to preparing contracts and plans for the collection of recyclables and the disposal of those recyclables as well as solid waste. So we're and quite frankly, I think that what you're suggesting here, some of the things that you bring to the table are things that we really need, which is the what are the markets that these recyclables can be taken to and by whom? And because you need to know that revenue stream, how to be able to put a business plan together, don't you? So I mean, we and that's not information that's easily gotten by governmental entities. So you're playing it seems to me, and I don't want to be presumptuous here, but it seems to me you're playing a very important role here of bridging.
Yeah, and that's something that we work to address. You know, one of the major or kind of another challenge that communities face is the guaranteed movement of materials. And again, what I mean by movement is just that this material will be purchased and if no matter the market conditions. And we solve by that by partnering brands who commit to purchase this material ahead of time. That way we can guarantee that your material, no matter the market condition, will be purchased, as that brand is then making a commitment through our system to the processor. So for certain commodities, we have kind of fixed long-term material purchase agreements, so we can provide some stability to the commodity markets. However, there are some commodities such as cardboard that still fluctuate on a monthly basis, but it's one of the things that we look to address to kind of optimize the system. And if it's helpful, we can provide kind of a cost estimate that could be something to serve and maybe inform that business plan that you're working on.
Any other comments from the committee members? I'll open it up to the audience. Ms. Mylat?
I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me, Ryan, but yeah, I'm presuming that these can be freestanding. They do not have to be or necessarily have to be where we currently have our solid waste disposal transfer stations. These could be located at other centralized places in the county, or are these where people actually bring their trash in?
Great question. So no, it doesn't have to be kind of where trash is collected. However, we always look to optimize current infrastructure. So typically transfer stations already have things that are needed like power or water. Some of them might have floor scales or be already manned. So kind of by optimizing these efficiencies, we can help keep costs down. But we can set up the facility kind of wherever the county deems fit. So I guess no is the answer to your question, but we always look to kind of help reduce costs wherever possible.
Ryan, does Replenish provide educational material for the community members?
We do. So kind of going beyond just the tools for collection and marketing your materials, we have a whole marketing team that kind of works with your community kind of on social media and outreach to educate the community on how to bring materials, what materials are collected, and showcase kind of where they're going. We also have we have a dashboard for the county. So Not only you can see kind of how much materials are being collected in real time, but so can the public. And real-time reporting as well that can be exported and can shared direct to either your county webpage or social media. So we have a team that can support those efforts as well.
Interesting. Interesting. Yes, sir.
I would suppose being successful RFP, we need to have more information provided in terms of the amount of material coming out of each transfer station. Otherwise, how could you make a cost estimate?
I think that you mentioned that in your opening remarks. I think, Ryan, that I think there's going to be a sharing of information here, which and maybe as a juncture. I mean, I think we've introduced you to Superintendent Hajos here, and so I think there needs to be a level of discussion that goes on between the two of you going forward, and the sharing of information, which we would provide to any prospective partner or contractor. So there's nothing wrong in doing that. But I think that's a good point that you're making. And because I mean, right now, you know, the parties that would participate in this at the municipal level, we're paying for all of this.
Yes, sir.
The idea that we could move to a more efficient, maybe even a reduced cost, but more certainly more environmentally friendly system or process is very attractive. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, it just the costs of, as you know, of recyclables is just going off like a rocket ship. And you astutely pointed out, Ryan, the not just the disposal costs, but the transport costs are just incredible here. And make another very good. And in many instances, you're transporting air, which is a very costly thing to do. Very costly thing to do. So you've made a number of comments that have registered with me today. I can tell you, Mr. E2.
In a typical replenish operation, does replenish own any real or personal property? The balloon, the forklift truck, the canopies, anything? Or
Sorry.
Great question. So no, we don't. So that's where we look to partner with the county and cities and communities that we work with. So all of the equipment that we kind of help provide the financing on will be kind of outright owned by the county. Our goal is to kind of reduce the friction in kind of getting that equipment installed.
it's
So,
not, you're getting training and support, the connection with the brands.
absolutely. So, you know, it's not just kind of the install of the equipment, you know, over the kind of the term of the agreement. You know, we provide kind of ongoing training and support. We visit our communities quarterly. We also have kind of ongoing training programs. You know, if you have new employees, best practices for kind of bailing. So there's a lot more goes into it than just, you know, your program set up, we wash our hands and we move on to the next community. The program is only successful if it's continuing to collect more materials, and that's really where we see kind of our incentives being aligned. You know, our goal is to keep every pound of material out of the landfill, and you know that only works if we're there, if you know, we can set the county up for success and ensure kind of a long-term successful program that keeps more material out of the landfill in a more environmentally friendly way.
Well, I thank you for being here today, and I certainly thank our friends from Zero Waste. Ms. Collins, you have something you'd like to say?
Well, the potential to change our system is high, and I think it would be really useful to start a work group to look at some of these suggestions from Replenish, maybe involve the managers, the actual hands-on managers at a couple of the transfer stations. Rick Parrish is here today and he runs the Queensberry transfer stations. A few people from Zero Waste and of course Kevin, but to start meetings to establish, we would recommend that a work group be organized to pursue this potential. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good suggestion. I think we would have to do that to move forward anyway, with all the various partners or whatever, but I think that's a great suggestion, and I think that our friends from Zero Waste, Kevin, should be part of that work group as well. And I think, Frank?
I think the biggest thing with the transfer stations is the separation. Because you take, for example, plastics, we have one container for plastics. I mean, if we're gonna separate 4 or 5 different plastics, we're gonna have to have a way to do that efficiently. You know, we can't be handling this stuff over and over again. And so I think that's one part of it. And the other part is the transportation. And I think, you know, we know the answer to that. It's money.
Right. No, it is. And I'm not saying anything out of school. We lost our administrator and a solid waste administrator here, and so we're really trying to keep this going with our existing staff, and we are looking to reach out to the private sector to help us keep moving this forward. And
having the marketing that they're bringing to us is key, actually.
yeah, I would agree. I'm actually encouraged by this presentation today, and we do have to move on. But let me just say this: this doesn't. I mean, we can have as many within the process. We can have as many discussions and really, you know, burrow into the minutia and the details that we're going to have to move this forward. But I'm actually very much encouraged by the presentation today. I don't know, what are the feelings of the rest of the committee, Claudia?
Yeah, I think it's a really smart idea. I think one of my concerns is the failure at purchasing that. I know we've kind of looked at that in the past, but what are our next steps? I mean, working group is great, but we need to kind of work with Julie Butler to get some sort of RFP together if we're actually going to approach this. No, you can do this yourself, Kevin.
So Julie doesn't have any information about this, so she wouldn't do she would put it out for us.
Right.
We have to put it together. So I think that's where Diane was referring to, maybe putting a working group together. I mean, again, I appreciate all the help from Zero Waste and would take on as many of the working group. I don't know if this committee actually has to assign a work group.
No, I think you can.
I don't want to keep it I don't want it to be large. I don't want 25 to 30 people in a work group. I mean, you know, 5 to 10 of us, I think that's good to get this moving forward, but having that many, things don't get accomplished.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you and our friends from Zero Waste can assemble the appropriate size and type of work group that helps move this forward, and which may add or delete going forward as well. So I think that's you know, Mr. Merlino.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Frank has said. I mean, I have a perfectly running transfer station. We got containers for everything. Glass, plastic, metal, C&D, garbage. And our biggest problem is getting it out of there, because we don't have a recycling truck to deliver it. So we have to pay for that and pay for some of the product. So for my start, we need a hauling truck or two through the county to get it to where we can have these gentlemen take care of it. And that's still a problem. Well, it depends on where it is, you know. I mean, yeah.
I mean, design follows function, and I think that we're going to need a plan here, and then there's going to have to be a business plan attached to that, because we're going to have to be able to say to the people that are going to participate financially, this is what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to cost you. And then all those that are interested in this, you know, press hard, sign here, right? I make it be trite about it, but I mean, I think that's where we're going. But I'm very much encouraged today. Thank you for being here. Certainly, thank you to our partners from Zero Waste for being as constructive as you are on the subject matter. And you know, the wheels of government, as you've heard me say, move very slowly and deliberatively. And but assuredly, I think that I think we're moving in the right direction. Thank you. And we do have to move along with our agenda. And those of you that wish to leave, please. Feel free, just.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. The ones and the ones.
This is 2 or 3, some goes in CD.
Yeah.
He's bringing, there's value added innovation and expertise there. That we,
It's getting. That's really what I was asking. What do you do? Oh, I try to buy a roll off of the market. In other words, well.
In the budget, I took it out, but it's gonna roll.
All right.
They go back there for the rest of the year. Enough money to buy.
Yeah. Which is alive. Okay. Kevin, which agenda you want to deal
I think we'll do Parks and Rec next.
Parks and Rec? All right. Good to see you always. You know that. All right, Kevin, what do we have in front of us today?
So the first thing we have on is a resolution, miscellaneous resolution to accept the donation, and I'll have Dean kind of go through that donation.
The Friends of Up Beyond the Farm have graciously, through their funding sources, been able to get us a few things that the facility had needed. As you see listed there, there's a printed plotter, turtle box enclosure, kind of like a pet enclosure, and then a larger and much needed 125 gallon snapping turtle tank for the Friends of. But these are all resources that we work together.
Sure.
And
Sure.
So we're.
Can we bring this to the floor for consideration, Mr. E2? Is that a shake? Yes. Okay. Mr. Bruno, on the second, any further discussion? Just I might add that I was happy to hear that the Friends of are going to continue and they have some new members. And so we're very encouraged by that.
Yeah.
We're ready for the question then. All those in favor of accepting the donation signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
Brian, any miscellaneous or discussion items? I'll let Dean up and down the first one.
Very quick, this tomorrow in Mr. Conover's backyard, we will be doing trunk or treat in Bolton. This year it's from 3 to 6, and we look forward to a great event, another great event like last year. Looks like the weather will be great. Of course, that's presented by a lot of the local and local groups in Bolton, but yeah, it'll be from 3 to 6. And I know I've hit that a few more meetings before, but anyways, it's in your packet. If you have any questions, I'm happy.
And come on up because Dean and Phil park cars.
We are, all that training he put me through at the airport.
The training of the superintendent allows me to park cars.
We also prepared if necessary to shuttle people.
Yeah,
We
we
are,
are.
thank you.
Good.
with your-
Thank
with the
you.
Agreement with yourself.
Thank you. I think that's important as well, because that gets very busy up there.
Like we're basically supposed to be out today. Looking at parking in the lot, efficient, police cars there, and we'll also be looking at the shuttle service.
And the railroad?
Next item is the RFP for the railroad, which as you all know, we passed out to the committee to make any suggestions on the RFP. I received a couple different suggestions and now Julie has the RFP out. We had to issue an addendum because we had a date wrong in there as we issued it, but it's out now and I'm trying to remember, I think she said November 17th, it may be back in. With that being said, I'm hoping to be able to bring something next committee meeting, but also next committee meeting is when Red Rail will be back, tell us their stuff for the year as well.
Lakeway paving?
We did a paving project,
Just a quick question, what you just said. What changes?
the date for submittal back to us, I believe. Yeah,
The one I have was November 2nd.
yeah, and that was changed, I think, to November 17th.
It's November 6th.
They have, everybody has the addendum. Yes, everybody does. She sends it out to everybody.
All right, thank you.
What's the length of the
the new contract, upwards of 3 years, at approval of the committee of board. You can put the option there, one with some additional terms. We could go more, and if the committee would propose that, I would make another addendum change to that RFP and put it in there.
Right then, bikeway paving,
Bikeway paving, we did just a quick repair on the Leonard Street parking lot as. Can't put them on the speaker. As well as at the bike path area, where we had a lot of roots growing through the pavement, causing some delamination and breaking up of the pavement. The guys have since been out there and done the work, and I have a photo here, which I think Dean's already passed it around. So. Get that photo.
thank you, had for stocking report.
I was trying to figure out where this is, Leonard.
Leonard Street. That's the end of the bike path.
Okay.
For a reason. Yeah. Then the last one is,
Last one is just a quick update from the staffing report. As you'll notice, our numbers were tremendous this year. That's due in part to a lot of times we get supplemental eggs earlier in the year. And actually, we had a very good, strong, healthy year. So everything survived and in great number. So moving forward, that was successful. Just recently, we took care of some of our salmon out into the waters, and actually, we've got another 5 schools signed up for Trout in the Classroom, of which Hadley, Luzerne, and Johnsburg are 2 of those. So they're going to be receiving eggs and learning a little bit more about how young individuals can take some stewardship measures in their watersheds.
and just one last thing to add on is, and I wanted to say this earlier, with Friends of Up Yonder that Supervisor Conover alluded to, is Friends of Up Yonder was in close to breaking up. And they've always been a huge supporter for us, but they've since found a couple of individuals who would come on board with Friends of Up Yonder, one of them being Bob Caven, who is phenomenal. And I'm glad he's going to be part of Friends of Up Yonder. But on top of that, we also just received, which we're bringing next committee, another $2,500 from the Pearsall grant for this year. So.
Good. And Claudia?
Sorry, I was out of the room when you gave the RFP update on the railroad. Could you please just give me the bottom line?
RFP is out. We're waiting for proposal to come in.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll just make my comment on the fish hatchery again, and if you want to talk about the natural environment, you want to talk about quality of life, and if you want to talk about economic development, you don't need to look any further than right here. Believe me, take a look at the Schroon River or any of our water bodies throughout the year. They attract a lot of people, both local and outside. Thank you. And with that, we should move right into DPW.
We're ready to be, so the first thing we have is a request for a new contract, and this is for crane services. We had 2 bidders. We had Roselle East and we had DA Collins. Roselle East was the parent low bidder, and this is just a term agreement if and when we need to have or need to use cranes for any reason.
Sure. Chair, I'll entertain a motion. Ms. Bramer, bring it forward. Mr. Merlino on the second discussion. We're ready for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, carried. Item 2.
The next item we have is a transfer of surplus road funds to capital project expenses, and you can see that what the transfers are. They go from road transfer projects to that we had extra in roads, and it seems like a lot of money that we had extra in roads, but I've explained this before in the past, is we do pretty good estimates within our department, but I also have a staff that watches over those projects, limited staff because I'm short on people. But you can see most of our contracts are not lump sum contracts. They're based on quantities and item numbers. So with that being said, if we had an estimate in there of 2,000 tons of pavement and they only use 1,900 tons of pavement, then we have that savings in the project. So and a lot of that is due to the staff that's watching over these projects.
All right, then bring this forward. A motion, Ms. Bramer, Mr. E2 on the second. We're ready for the question. All those in favor of the transfer signify by saying aye. Opposed, carried. And item 3.
Chairman, Just before we go on, I have no problem with the transfers. I was just wondering where they're going in capital projects. Are these going to specific things or?
You're going to see on the next page.
My bad. Thank you.
So the next resolution we have on there is a resolution to increase capital project, which is project H390. H390 is our bridge and culvert projects in the county, and it's just a kind of a place where we put funding every year to take care of any bridge and culvert projects that we may have. In-house type of projects. With that being said, we're going through a little bit of a nightmare now, and we will have a little bit more information soon. We haven't done a culvert assessment, or I think in all the time that I've been here in the county, there's never been a culvert assessment done throughout the county. We have over 1,500 culverts, probably over 500 of those are large or significant size culverts, that's above 5 feet. We are in the midst of a lot of these, and we've seen it throughout the years, last couple of years collapsing. We had Bay Road, we had the one over in Stony Creek, we have one currently up on County Route 11, that it's completely deteriorated on either side of the shoulder. We had our emergency contractor or heavy highway contractor give us just an estimate of cost to replace that culvert, and it's not a large size culvert, it's only about 5 feet. I'm sorry, it's a 4-foot culvert that's existing there now. We are proposing a 5-foot culvert. With that being said, we reached out to them, we asked for the worst case scenario. New York State DEC right now is becoming very hard to get permitting through them, even in a situation like this where it's emergency. I don't want to say we're being run through the ringer, because that's not the right term, but they're requesting a lot of things upon us that we're not sure why or where they're coming from, and there's not a lot of backup behind it. So the first estimate that we received from our heavy highway bid for a replacement of a 4-foot pipe that's about 14 feet down is $670,000. So with that being said, we are in the process right now of writing a letter back to DEC and explaining to them that we've had soil and water look at the stream. We've had soil and water and my staff do the stream calcs for flows and such. And we're only required to have a 5-foot pipe. 5-foot pipe up there will handle a 500-year storm. Based on DOT's guidance and DEC's guidance, they typically want something that is 20% of a 100-year storm or 50-year storm, 20% above that, which we've more than calculated for that. But they're stuck on this 1.25 the bank full width for our pipe. They want us to put anywhere from a 7 to 9 foot pipe in there. And the 1.25 is based on a couple of different scenarios. It's based on aquatic passage, and it's based on stream degradation and things like that. Aquatic passage is never going to happen on this stream, even though it's considered a CT stream, because this pipe is a 14% slope. So there's no aquatic passage going up this pipe. The second thing is the stream degradation that they considered, which makes it seem like this stream is a little bit wider than it is. It's because of a bridge failure that happened probably over 20 years ago that degraded this and left it the way it was. It has nothing to do with the pipe that we have. So we're in this back and forth right now with DEC, and this falls under their general permit requirements. We're proposing to the point of we'll go to an individual permit and we'll put in our 5-foot pipe. We're submitting a letter probably this afternoon to DEC to state that, you know, this is, we're not going to go with this 1.25 and it's only guidance and nothing more. But they're hanging their hat on this, so we just have to do our due diligence and show them that it's not needed, and that's the process that we're in now. So this money itself is to move into 390 because there will be some cost associated with that work in County 11. Not $670,000 because we refuse to go at that cost. And on top of that, just to make you aware, we have another pipe up on Trout Lake Road in the town of Bolton that we just had our consultant propose doing a liner inside that pipe. Very less invasive. We wouldn't need to necessarily, we'd only be in the stream for a very short period of time. And I'd really like to find an email to provide it to all of you, but the response back when we submitted the permit to DEC, the response back. And I really hope I can find it here to tell you, but the response back basically came back and said, we don't recommend a liner, we recommend you replace. Now, for a regulatory agency to recommend or require us to replace, that's unheard of, and there's no backup to go along with that. We don't recommend a liner, we require you to replace it. It's fine for them to say that. Do they have the funding to be able to help us to replace that pipe? As Supervisor Conover knows, that there's a significant wetland beyond that pipe, and to do a replacement and to bypass water around that area, that would probably turn that pipe into a bridge. And it would put us somewhere in the vicinity of $2 million to replace.
Frank, did I see your hand, Frank?
Yeah, was that an engineer that told you to replace it or?
No, that's why I'm trying to.
Because at Stony Creek, we've run into that kind of situation where we have somebody that is not an engineer telling us how to fix something.
Yeah, and that's. And here, I mean, if you give me 1 second, I just found the correspondence and I would really like to read this to you. For the correspondence that came back, and Frank, I'm happy to tell you who sent it to us, but the correspondence came back that said the current cured in place pipelining proposal does not meet permit issuance standards. A full culvert replacement is needed. That's now with no backup to that whatsoever. I have attached the stream activities general permit as well as the CRRA guidance, which is that Community Resilience Risk Act. But again, in that act, this hanging their hat on this 1.2 times the bank flow width is guidance, nothing more. So
This is the same one that you're talking about?
this is the Trout Lake Club, but this came back from a gentleman, I won't say his name because I don't necessarily want to call him out, but he's considered a environmental analyst trainee in DEC, telling me that I have to replace one of my pipes. So with that being said, we're corresponding to both of these that we're not going that route. But this transfer that I'm doing is to put some money within that capital project. So whatever work I have to do, I will have some funding to be able to do it.
And
That's for Riverbank Road. Can you tell us where exactly this is?
On County Route 11, Riverbank Road,
Where?
above New Vermont Road. You can't miss it because there's cones on either side of the road. And we're pretty soon going to put a concrete barricade up there to keep people away from the edge of the roadway that's collapsing away.
I might add that some of the culverts on that road are very deep.
That's
Very
just
deep.
one of 5 or 6 more that go up that hill that were all installed at the same time.
Right, and if they're suggesting that you can't slip line those culverts, you're looking at major expense. Major expense. I mean, you think about the one he's talking about, what did he say, 15 feet?
Yes.
I mean, you think about the hole you have to dig to do that. That turns that into a major project. So,
That was
There's one cross
because of
here, the one across.
the rain, the amount of fill,
Okay.
because
Right.
I worked on
You can see
that
that barrels and
Chris Frost
along the edge of the road.
design, Riverbank years ago.
right, but I think what it's demonstrating is that I'm being presumptuous here, but if I were the superintendent of highways, because I don't want to have to replace those culverts, that I'd already be looking to slip line the ones of the same period that have yet to collapse because they've rusted. They're probably galvanized.
They are.
They're all galvanized. So, I'd be looking to slip line those because you can get in and get out, right? You can get in and you can get out. But you have to start digging down 15, 20, 25 feet. You have to dig a big canyon to get that.
And to add on to that, I was, there will be a cost because I don't have enough staff that can do this in a reasonable amount of time. Yes, my staff could do it, but this may take us a month, and a month of a detour on County Route 11 is not going to work. So the bottom line is, we'll have to go to probably our heavy highway bid when the time comes. And again, I'm not trying to call out DEC, but No, there is stipulations in the environmental conservation law that allows. A municipality, highway superintendent in an emergency where it's gonna affect safety. Property, life, that we can go in and change it. And I'll give an example. The Saratoga County was under this same kind of. Problem that they were having, or same issue that they were having down there, and. What ended up happening is over a weekend that they got a significant amount of rain, the pipe collapsed. They had to just go in and replace it, and they called DEC Monday morning, even though DEC was kind of going through the same thing with them and said, hey, by the way. We replaced our pipe in kind and it's back in place now.
The project with that was supplying the culvert, and I have to tell you, the good thing about it was not only from a cost point of view, but from an environmental point of view, you get in and you get out.
Yep.
You don't have anywhere near the excavation, you don't have anywhere near the disturbances, you don't have the kind of impact that you have when you're having to move to you might have to actually move not only a box culvert, but it's possible they are a steel deck bridge. That's expensive. Claudia?
Thanks. On this one that you have on the agenda, where is it? That you're showing me on the main, this is the main road going from 87 down into, yeah. It's not this other, County Route 11 is showing on the side.
That's County Route 11A that we call 11A, which is
Gotcha.
Valley Woods Road.
Okay,
Yep.
so if you keep it at the same size, is it going to be a bottomless culvert?
No.
Why not?
Yeah.
You just can't do it?
No.
Why?
It's at a 14% slope. I have to have guys hauling that in there with buckets to dump it in. How am I gonna create a bottomless culvert? It's
I
a
don't know.
round pipe,
You're-
right? It's a round pipe. We would try to bury it as much as we can. But it's difficult on that type of slope to be able to do that. So, but again,
Because I thought at that size, 5 feet, you could do
So-
bottomless.
we.
Aside from
Not
the
bottomless, because it's not, it's a round pipe, so it's not bottomless.
I'm asking you to do one that's bottomless. With the half arch thing.
So again, that increases the cost significantly, and now I'm putting a galvanized pipe back in the ground that will only from, because it's an arch type pipe that you're asking me to do. So I'm gonna put that in the ground, and 30 years from now, someone's doing that same replacement again. We have a 4-foot pipe that exists there today. We did the calculations, and to back up our calculations, we actually had soil and water do it. A 5-foot pipe, round pipe, covers a 500-year storm. And it's a plastic pipe. In my lifetime, it'll still be there. It will never go anywhere.
Well, that's a conversation. You want to have that conversation with the department.
Well, it's asking us to approve a $700,000 project.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you to transfer the money into that capital project in case we need it. And that it's just going into, I use that 390 for all bridge and culvert work. All bridge and culvert. Not just the.
So how much is this gonna cost? What you're proposing in the
I
end?
don't have a proposal yet for
Stay tuned.
it.
Okay.
You're just transferring money into a overall capital project. It's not specifically for this project.
This says to increase capital project H390 to fund the Bolton Landing Riverbank Road culvert replacement.
Right, but it's not, again, I said to you, we had an estimate from our contractor, our heavy highway contractor, it was 670, but we're not going with that estimate, and we're not using that heavy highway contractor to pay that amount of money.
We're doing
I'm
it.
waiting. No, I'll still use the contractor, but I cannot,
Oh, yeah. You
I
said-
can't give you
Yeah.
a specific number right now until I get word back from DEC of what they're gonna require us to permit.
Okay.
And once that permit comes back, then we'll refine with our heavy highway bidder as to what that might be.
Okay.
Right, there's no motion on this. Do you need a motion?
There is.
Yeah.
You need-
Make the motion to increase the
Voted on
capital.
the transfer, you're lacking a motion to increase the capital.
Increase the capital.
Increase the capital project. Ms. Bender, thank you so much. Mr. Bruno on the second. Are we in agreement? All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we need to get moving. Just privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here wishing to address this committee at this time? Mr.
Want to say that we definitely did a good job on.
Thank you.
All right, then motion to adjourn, excuse me, Mr. Thomas.
Just one thing, that Stony Creek culvert's in Thurman.
Do you want to move that? I'm kidding. Sure, go ahead.
I wanted to make everyone aware, and I was called out Tuesday to Quaker Road and Glenwood Avenue. And Supervisor Stroh asked me to come out and meet with him and Chris Harrington, who's the water superintendent. The town has a failed valve, two failed valves in the intersection of Glenwood Avenue and Quaker Road.
Oh.
So Dan's making that comment because they are going to saw cut open my brand new road. I've been assured by Supervisor Stroh and by Chris Harrington is that they will restore it and that I won't even notice that they were there. They do have two contractors. They have Tommy Kubricki doing the water line work and they have the O'Connors coming in to do the paving work. But I just wanted to make you aware of that because I know that we passed the moratorium, but this is an emergency because they cannot close this valve off. So they have to get it done.
Just that comment, if anybody can make it look like it was never cut, O'Connor could
They
take
can.
I see the mayor here, but believe me, you have not lived until you've had to manage a public water system or a sewer system, am I right? That is, believe me, it never, and all of them do. Am I right on that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I've seen brand new valves fail. All right, motion to adjourn, Kramer on the motion, Mr. Bruno on the second, all in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.